Alright guys, Dylan here, back with more Final Fantasy VII Remake. It is the next morning, or actually it's past noon, it's 12:20. Yeah, I had some stuff I had to do today. Ran some errands, I recorded my Watch Dogs video, but now I have nothing going on for the rest of the day that I need to do. So I'll probably record here for an hour or two, and then get some editing done tonight. But yeah, let's continue on.
Pretty fun.
I think we're just gonna do some side quests, right?
In the photo room wondering,
listening to the RJP podcast.
if he's not gonna put up Janelle and Kaser because he's close to them, then
Former
who's he
soldier
gonna put
turned
up?
problem solver.
And they're all in their minds thinking about like their side piece, right?
I am pretty upset.
And so, you know,
The kids are
Cody
still
is
off doing
worried
patrols,
about
even though
Bailey
it's
and
now time for their
Devon,
lessons. Not a
because
single one
he
of them
knows
has
that
come back
Memphis
yet.
mentioned Bailey as a potential
Patrols?
person to put on the block.
Is that a leaf house thing?
And so
Something
he's
you do to
worried
help
about
out?
that.
That's right.
Nicole
In
Franzel
return
is
for the
worried about
donations we
Ian.
receive, the kids go around
Because
town
she's
picking up
got
litter,
Ian,
running
and
errands, that kind
Cody's
of thing.
telling them he mentioned
I don't
Ian
suppose
as
you've
a
seen
possibility.
him,
She's like,
have
no, that's a bad idea. We can't get out Ian.
You see, I have some
And
important
Tyler is
plans
worried
this
about
evening,
David
and I really
because
need to go and
David
get
is an
ready.
option to put up as a pawn,
Would you
and
like us
Tyler
to go
knows
round
that if
them
David
up?
goes up as a pawn,
That would be
things could
wonderful.
easily flip around and he could
There
be
are
sent
5
home,
of them out on
especially if he's
patrol
up on the
right
block
now.
next to Ian,
They all
and it
wear
becomes
homemade
Tyler
swords on their
versus
backs, so they
Franzel
should be
as
easy
to
to
which
spot.
of Ian or David end up going home. So Tyler's trying to protect Ian, Franzel's trying to protect Nicole, and so they're both trying to throw it on Bailey and Davon, but then you have Cody over here
what the
being
fuck?
like, but Bailey and Davon are not close to
Lovely,
Janelle.
don't you
We don't want to go after
Great
Bailey and
job.
Davon.
That's wonderful.
They're not actually that close. And Tyler's like, what do you
Isn't
mean?
it?
Bailey's talking to
Oh,
Janelle
I
all
nearly
the time.
forgot. I saw some Shinra suit walking towards your
Franzel's
house a
like,
little
yeah,
while
like
ago.
they're close to him.
He
And
was
he's
dressed
like, no,
all
they're
in
not.
black.
Wait a minute,
A
they're not
little
supposed to know that I'm so
scary
close to Bailey and Devon. I mean, I don't think they are. I mean,
Okay.
like, Bailey's, I mean, Davon's really mad at Janelle because of, you know, some things that happened last night. So, and, like, they could be faking that. Like, I don't think so.
It's very hard to try and convey information that you have and know without letting them know that you have this information for certain.
I don't know what I'm
He was
doing
definitely
right now,
trying
this
to
class.
get there. But look, here's the situation, right? With when people have parachutes within their lines, you know, we've talked about the double brigade, we've talked about having your extra side pieces. The truth is, with someone like
Oh.
Memphis winning, I was
Wait, what the
very
fuck?
sad.
I didn't know this was a
I'm
thing.
not gonna lie, not very happy about it. But then the more you think about it, this is someone who's more of a wild card and is more likely to maybe take out one of the side pieces of the people that he believes he's working with without even knowing it. And this is what we're seeing happen in front of us right now with this conversation, is trying to figure out how can I avoid having my side piece go on the block or go out without really pushing too hard to make my core alliance not trust me, to make them not believe that I'm with them and I'm with the cause.
So we just gotta
And I
find
think
kids
ultimately
somewhere.
all of this, you look at all the people we've mentioned, there's one person, almost, ideally there's one person that has a realistic shot of leaving that they would all kind of be okay with. And that is Nicole Ann.
And that's kind of who they fall onto. That what about Nicole Anthony? And while Nicole Anthony is talking about how Janelle running the house, and that we need to get Janelle out of the game because she's dangerous, Cody and Tyler and Franzel are talking about,
You
well,
sound very
if he's not
determined.
going to go after Janelle,
These are
he needs to
dangerous
at least go
times.
after somebody
The
that will
reactor
weaken
blew up and a
Janelle.
bunch of
So
kids
get
lost
out
their
Nicole
friends
Anthony.
and
She's
families.
so close
knows
with
what might blow up
Janelle.
next?
She's like,
I guess that means more children
basically
might be coming
like
to the house
in
soon.
there with Kaser,
And I think
she's
the
like
teachers
basically
are
the
gonna
third
have a
person
whole
in that
lot more
trio.
work to do.
Speaking
And
of teachers,
this
Miss Foley is looking
does
for you.
become a self-fulfilling
Oh, man, I
prophecy
completely
later in the night.
forgot.
But
I
at
have to
this
get back
point,
right now.
it's pretty funny to hear this because Nicole Anthony's about to get clipped for being associated with Janelle, who she's really only talking to because she thinks she's running the house. She needs to be in good with him.
Yeah, no, it's so funny. Every time Janelle and Nicole talk, and Janelle hits Nicole with a, like, last night she was like, I'm happy you're in this
How
room
goes
with
the
me. I'm
patrol?
glad you're here.
Yeah, it is funny though, like how bad of a read Nicole
And I
Anthony has on the
know, we
house.
know
Plus, I helped
that
an
she
old lady
doesn't
cross the
trust
street.
Janelle for anything, and it's just like
You've been
cozying up
busy.
for that reason.
It's a normal day for
It's
me.
so
I
funny
work
that
hard.
the
The
person
house
she wants
depends
to
on
get
people's
off
donations.
is potentially
Oh, no.
the person
I'm
that
late.
is going to be the
Did
cause
you
for her
see
to
Miss
leave,
Julia?
but not for the
Is
reason
she
she
mad?
thinks, just because people think they're associated
I
with
gotta go.
It's fascinating.
Yes, and room assignments are actually very important here. So the have-nots are no longer have-nots, and we have new have-nots. The new have-nots are Kaser, David, Franzel, and Christmas. And so that left a couple of beds open. David is going to leave the bed in the photo room, and Cody goes, call that bed, because that's where all his allies are. So Cody is now replacing David in the photo room with Tyler, Danny, and Enzo.
I've been watching them really
In
close.
the key room, the bedroom with Janelle and Kaser, and that Keisha used to be in, Ian is now replacing Kaser in his bed, and Nicole Anthony is taking.
But that's a secret, okay? I'm not supposed
Was
to
it
tell
Keisha's?
anyone.
I thought Kevin took Keisha's bed. Who did
I gotta
Nicole?
go study.
She took Franzel's bed, I think. And so, and it's the one next to Janelle. And she apparently was very similar to Cody, very like obvious about like, I want to be in the bed, I want to be in this bed, like I want this one, and she kind of fought for it, and it's the one next to Janelle, and so they're looking at her like, wow, she really loves Janelle, huh? So in that room now is Janelle, Nicole Anthony, and Kevin, with Ian on the other side. So that's a room, and then the other room, like,
so
is
boring.
Enzo, Tyler, Danny, that's a room. And these room differences are going to really start to further the divide that's already in the house. When the feeds were back on, when all of this was happening, you did have, like, earlier on, you had Ian, Nicole Anthony, and Kevin in the key room, just kind of like talking about the vote, like, you know, kind of solemnly. And then in the kitchen,
Should be the last one,
you
I
had all of the power structure. You had Enzo, Memphis, Tyler, Cody, Devon, Danny, Franzel. They're all out in the kitchen socializing, laughing, while everybody else is kind of isolating themselves and being very serious and very solemn, which is like bad on them for isolating themselves,
That's everyone.
and
Let's go
I
back to the
think
house.
bad on the power group for being way too obvious, because this is what often happens. When there's an HOH outcome that you like, you can like play it down when it happens, like,
Thanks to you two.
whatever.
You've been a great help.
But like the rest of the night,
Okay,
there's
everyone,
like,
come inside. It's time to hit the books.
you're glowing. You know?
guys, the Toad King's back.
like,
I saw him
you
near
just
the
can't
hideout.
help but
We
laugh
gotta
at
do something
things
about him.
loudly. You're just
The
so
Toad King?
happy to be here.
Really monster
Let's
we've seen
joke
near the
around
hideout
in the
lately.
kitchen.
wears it
Not
around, he
nary a
walks around
care
like he
in the
owns the
world,
place.
because you know
If
you're
he's not
safe.
king, he's gotta be
And the
monster
people that don't know
royalty
they're
at
safe
least.
don't feel
I bet
that
a
way.
soldier could beat
And you
him at
think you're
ease.
being slick, but it's
Oh, yeah,
very
really.
obvious.
It's,
here's
it's
the
the
thing.
feeling is very
I don't work
similar,
for
I
free.
imagine, to when
cheap.
you're getting ready with like the rest of the school going into the exam hall, and there's that nervousness of like, I don't know what's gonna happen. You sit the exam, you finish it. When you leave and you feel okay about it, all of that lifts. So for like the next like 7 hours, you don't care about anything else. You're just happy you survived that exam. Everything went well. But if you're in a position where, because I've been in some town where you're like, I don't know if I passed or failed. Like it's just realistically, it could be anywhere. This was such a weird exam, and that is an unsettling feeling. And then there's of course the I did horrible, and that's the feeling there as well. So with this big majority alliance that's feeling
I'm
so
offering a
comfortable in the
special
kitchen,
discount right now.
they know they
Take
passed that
pictures.
exam. It was easy.
Looks
They
like it's your
studied,
lucky day.
and like even though they didn't know what to expect,
Now
they
that's
came out
my
okay. They
kind
can
of
have a
garden.
meal guilt-free, not worry
The
about it.
hideout is the only place
And
that
I think
belongs
it's
to
hard
giant
not
boys.
to feel that way,
I don't wanna
especially when
lose
there's
it
so
because
many
of
of you that
some
feel
angry
similarly.
Toad
You just have a tendency of celebrating together. Whether it's not too out loud or whatever, you're still doing it on some kind of level. So
Yes. So Memphis is going to eventually get the key to the HOH room. He is going to burst out of the diary room and scare the what would Franzel say? Scare the frick out of her or something.
Jesus or something.
Yeah. She was really freaked out. And so they go up and they do the HOH thing. He got a very sweet letter from his son. And then everybody goes out pretty quickly, and Janelle very quickly is gonna like latch on, like talk to him, which I thought was great. The conversation doesn't really go anywhere, but he does kind of imply that she's good, and also implies I'm not talking targets. I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Everybody's technically up for grabs. He's doing exactly what Brent was saying. You're implying everybody should be playing in the safety competition, but he is again kind of like
Nothing to it.
like you don't have to worry though, Janelle. You know, he's talking like they're good because he does, I think, want to keep this relationship
Get back.
on the up and up as much as possible and not have to go after them.
Yeah, and I think that that was one of the reasons why I was okay with it after I settled my
Not bad.
Stop being a baby about Memphis winning. Is that,
Leave this to
you know
me.
what? I think that he's going to try to leverage the relationship he has with Janelle and these
Going in.
Okay, it's these two.
Nothing to
Keisha
it.
and Memphis, they're going to try and work together. That didn't pan out. Memphis had his other plans. But I think he's going to try and keep them around. If not for just the relationship.
Why can't it just drop? Like, why do we have to go through it?
He's not the
Fucking
target.
dumb.
The other reason, Karen, and this is
You
evident
could always
based on
run away,
strategy,
right?
make everyone
That was close.
is that these two have already flushed their savers. He's guaranteed 2 people that will not compete in it next week. Why not get some more people to flush it to get them out? So that's a good thing for him. The ones that don't have it safe anyways. Because if you're not going to be confident next week, and if you win, you're not going to be out.
Gotta be careful.
And everyone else is targeting
Oh,
you.
what? How did I get that?
Yes. So that's basically the conversation he has there. Randall and Christmas are going to talk more in the have-not room. Then they're going to go into the HOH room. Dave's going to join them for a little bit. Memphis basically says, like, here's the thing. I want at least 2 of you playing in the safety competition, because if everybody's playing and like 5 people don't play, it's gonna be so obvious. So this is Memphis trying to get his own alliance to earn their safety events, their VIP events. And Christmas immediately like, I'm down, ready to do it for the team. I'll do it. And so that's what they talk about there. He does also briefly talk with Danny and says that he's not interested in backdooring anyone this week. He would prefer to keep it straightforward. I do believe him there. I you know, over the course of the night, we'll talk about where we think he'll go, but the vibe I got from most of his conversations was that he is leaning toward the easy thing, and an easy thing with no potential backdoor would be his
Did you
preference, in my
defeat
opinion.
the Toad King?
Yeah, no, I think that he very much
Took this
wants
butt real
to
good.
not rock the
Awesome.
boat too much. He
I
doesn't
knew
want
you
to get
could
too
do it.
fancy with it. He
Now
cited
we
the
don't have to
reason for
worry
not
about
wanting
the
to
king and
backdoor us.
smelly
It's
brain.
too soon for that.
Thank you so
So he doesn't want to be involved in doing something like that, obviously, because that would entail putting up a pawn and then a third nominee, and that's not something he
Okay,
wants to do. I
kids.
think he just wants a
Playtime's
clean
over for
shot,
now.
an easy
I
shot, and
prepared a
then he
special
wants to go to the
assignment
back
for
of the
everyone.
line, because
One that
all
I
he wants, I think
expect you
his
to
main
finish
objective
today.
here isn't I want to
Understood?
get X out
Yes.
anymore. I think
Yes,
his main
Miss
objective
Folia.
was, let me show the people that I've been speaking to this
I
past week about
appreciate you getting
me
rid of the
having their
Toad
back.
King.
Let me have their back, and then I'll
Wow,
move
Miss
on.
Folia, you must know
Yeah,
all their secrets.
and I think that you can
Oh,
do
if
a
only.
backdoor early.
Easier said
It just
than
has
done.
to be a like
They're
very
always on the move.
consensus
Consensus,
house
looking for new
target that you do that
adventures,
to.
chasing new
And
dreams.
even like Kaser and
All while
Janelle
trying
are
to
not
make the lives
quite
of
at that
everyone around
level
them just a little bit better.
at this point.
I
Maybe
try to make
close
sure
to
they
it.
don't
So if
stumble
he
and
did want
fall.
to do a backdoor,
And when they
we'd
finally
probably
do,
be one of
I
them.
help them back up.
But like you
Sounds
think to like a Devin situation where
Sometimes
it's
it
like
is.
you can kind of
But I
make
want
the
the
whole
children
house
to know
trust
that
you
until
by
they can
doing a
stand on their own
backdoor.
2 feet,
But
I'm
I
here to
think
support
Memphis is
them,
mostly right here
care for
that
them,
you know
love them.
a sort of like
even if we're not actually
a
related,
savage backdoor,
we're still
like
a
a
family.
gotcha backdoor is
A
way
real family.
it makes you
In
look
all the
very
ways that
sketchy
matter.
as an HOH.
If I can
And
do
being
that for
just
them,
straightforward and putting up
then,
to
well,
you know
then maybe I'm
blah
making this world a
options
better place.
like Cody did
I know you
can
are.
really get you through.
My predecessor taught me everything
He
I know.
seems like he's gonna be
I just took up his
tame with
torch
it. I don't think he's
and
gonna be.
ran
There's
with
gonna
it,
be
I
any
guess.
like malicious,
Not that I'm
or, like,
anything close to what he
extra
was.
like
Biggs is one of a
aggressiveness or
kind.
actively wanting to do something. There is something
Oh, no.
I did hear
completely
about
lost track
at
of
some
time.
point, and I don't
Do
think
you
we're
have
going to touch
somewhere
on
you
it
need to
any
be?
of so I'm just going to ask you
More
here.
like a dream.
Apparently, the way he assigned David a
Thank you again for
have-not
your
was
help.
very harsh.
I was gonna bring that up.
Okay.
So,
I wonder what
in fact,
kind
because
of
I
thing
was
she's
I
chasing
was gonna bring it
today.
up earlier and I forgot, and then I forgot to bring it up just
again for
because we were
saving
just
our
talking about the
rival
easy
from
thing. I
the
forgot again.
return,
But
I let
so
everyone
yeah,
know you
they
guys can join the
like
game,
Tyler
a special
apparently was
guest.
kind of upset about the way
Wanna
that
know more? Then come
that
to the
David
hideout.
was put up as a have-not. I think David was kind of upset about it. I think Janelle talked about like, what's the big deal? Like,
I see you're
like
working
get
hard,
over it.
Mr. Merc.
You're playing a game, which is very typical.
So what are you gonna
Janelle.
do next?
But people,
Keep on
people
working
were like,
hard.
"Ooh, man, like,
As
it
you
seems
always
like
do, I'm
he
sure.
was really like
You
putting
know,
David
this
as a
is
have-not,
Hilaria Living.
like kind of harshly.
Really?
And
I
David
thought
is
you were
later
just
going to
doing it
talk
for
to
fun.
Kaser,
I suppose
and
some people do.
kind of
Hello,
they're
I'm
talking
some
about potential
people.
nominations,
Nice to
and
meet you.
kind of you get the implication that that David might
That's
be
good. Alright,
the target for Memphis, but we'll get into that when we get to the Kaser conversation for sure. But yes, I did want to cue up the fact that apparently it was kind of a harsh way of putting David as a have-not. We did not see it though, so I don't know what the context was. So Memphis is going to have a conversation with Cody.
Let's
This is
go.
going to be the important one. He does have a conversation with Devon first. Devon does a good job getting up there, you know, being like, hey, well, you know, before everyone else storms you, I just wanted to like acting like she's doing him a favor by coming in. But he was having none of it. He was just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna talk much tonight. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. So I'm sure we'll talk tomorrow.
His direct quote was, I can go two paths.
Now that things are starting
One,
to settle
there's
down
a
a
threat
bit,
to my game later
we
on,
can
or one
finally
that's
play
easy to get. I was
Whack-a-Box
like, thank
again.
you, Memphis. You've
It's all
summed up
thanks to
what
you.
having power
Oh yeah,
in the
I
game of
forgot.
Big Brother is.
There's this tiny
Really gave her
thing going
nothing.
out by the
He
community
did, though.
center.
He did say,
And
just
I
wanted
heard
to
he
let
was
you know.
looking for some help.
Or, no, Devon said, I wanted to let you know you're WWE. He didn't even give her that
Yeah.
guarantee. He's been very, very sure to not give that to everybody.
Devon was kind of like trying to make that bond as a parent, and nothing in return. And she has to go out the door. Cody comes in,
Oh, hey, Cloud.
and we get
You're just in
probably
time
the
for our
most
favorite game,
genuine
Whack-a-Box.
sort of like
You want
actual
it?
planning
It's super
conversation
fun.
here.
The rules are
Memphis
easy.
mentions
The
to
person
Cody
who
that he
whacks
wants
the
at
most
least
boxes
two
is
people
crowned
playing
champion
in
of
the
the
safety
hideout.
competition. And
We
yes.
usually don't let adults play,
Memphis
but
was also
since you're
he
cool,
locked the door
we're gonna make a
after
special
Tay-
exception
after
just for
Tay
you.
left. Cody was like, "You locking the door already?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't want people barging in on me." And Cody's like, "Yeah, those people." Closes the door, walks in. So he wants at least two people from the telephone game, Usual Suspects, Incinerators, Alliance. They really need to come up with a name already because it's getting annoying.
Apparently he's asked. Apparently he's waiting for the DR to give him an answer of whether or not they can use the name.
They're not going to be able to use Usual
No,
Suspects.
there's no way.
Usual Suspects, maybe. But not Usual Suspects. I mean, come on. But he says that he can do something safe, or he can take a shot. And he says safe would be something like Nicole, Anthony, and David. Maybe a bigger move would be something like Devon and Bailey. And it was just like, whoa! Where did that come from? Now, remember, Bailey was somebody that he wanted to bring into the Usual Suspects. And what happened was Danny vetoed Bailey being brought in. She said, you can't bring in Bailey. She's way too close to Day. And if you remember back to that conversation, Memphis was shocked that Day was so close to Ben. He was like, what? They're close? Like, I didn't think they were close. She's like, they're inseparable. Like, they're a package deal. And he was like, oh my god. And since that moment, he had a great relationship with Bailey before that. Since that moment, he hasn't really talked about Bailey that much. I think he's like super, like, I think he was like, whoa, like, I did not see this. Now he sees them as like his dangerous pair. And that's probably why he was talking about using her as a pawn next to Ian. That's probably why we're looking at Jay and Bay as potential nominees here from Memphis. Although, as I said, I think that there's also definitely a possibility that he has no intention of putting those two on the block, and all the intention to put David and Nicole on the block, and he's just throwing those names out there to be like, you know, I have other plans too. I'm not close to these people.
Yeah. I think his whole thing is I don't want to look like I've settled on an idea in my head, so I'm going to give an alternative option. I'm going to give a more outlandish option, and I'm going to call that the big move option. And I'm going to make it clear that I'm not really keen on a big move, but it's an option in my head. And I think that's the way it's been going, because, and obviously, you know,
Wait, where's the,
bringing these names up to Cody, like Cody's not going to want that.
Oh, there it
There's
is.
no way. I just think it's him showing that, oh, I have my options open, when in fact, we kind of know that he zeroed in on like 3 people that he sees as expendable for this game.
Leaving already?
Yeah, and again, like weirdly, like he hasn't brought up these names to anybody but Cody. You know,
It feels
Memphis,
good to help people out, doesn't it?
Memphis is the kind of guy who thinks
You
he's
having
clever
fun yet?
than he actually is.
Then you
Which
can't be
makes
afraid
him
to show it more.
come
Don't
up
forget,
with,
it's all
like,
about service and
ideas that don't make
salesmanship.
a lot of sense, but in
I'll
his
leave
mind
that
are
to
like
you.
super clever. So
All
I
right,
could easily
but
see
don't
him
think you
being
can
like,
rely on me forever,
I'm close to
mister.
Bailey. I tried
Wasn't
to bring
planning
her
to.
in. They didn't want her to
That's
be
good.
in. So now
Because
I'm
I
gonna
command a
pretend
very
like she's
good
super
salary.
expendable to me while I actually still work that relationship on the down low. So I'm gonna mention her as a possible nominee, but I'm never actually gonna nominate her. I could see that being something that he's doing, or I could see him being, like I said, like weirded out by the fact that she's close today. And actually,
So how many
considering
more do we
nominating her.
have?
I have no idea what's going on in this guy's head.
Yeah. I would want it to be the first one. The first one is like pretty good. I would like that because it makes it look like, hey, this is how much I do not care about Bailey, contrary to what your beliefs are. Trust me. That I like because those are not going to do it, so that's no problem. Obviously, the one bad thing is if it
Get
gets
there
back
now.
to Bailey, but then he hasn't done it, and the receipts are that, hey, I didn't do that, so that's not a thing.
Yeah,
But then-
because he doesn't know how close Cody is with Bailey and Devon.
Right. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that at all. But I feel like the other thing maybe makes more sense for a Memphis. Again, for some reason, I'm still like not willing to give Memphis his due.
What'll it be?
I don't know why, but we'll see as the week goes along. It's day one. You know, there could be so much more to Memphis than what I've been seeing.
Shinra
We'll see.
weapons are on the rampage. 5 of them,
So,
like floating eyeballs.
Cody has
I
a
saw them
couple
wander
of
off into the
sort of
scrap,
agendas
but if they
here.
come back into town, it'd be a
I think that
disaster.
he's trying to
We need
feel
someone who's
Memphis
willing
out
and able to
on
fight.
Janelle and Kaser, and he's doing it in the sort of like backwards
I'll
way
handle
where
it.
he's like, so
You
obviously,
will?
you
Oh,
know,
man,
you're
you're
probably
the
not
best.
looking at throwing
I
up
could hear
Janelle
them
and
shouting
Kaser, they're probably
intruder
too
detected
valuable
or
to
some
you.
other nonsense when they
And
floated
Memphis
off.
To
is
that
like,
great lip
yeah,
syncing.
Be careful.
basically
They
he's
look
like, yeah,
dangerous.
that
There's pop in there earlier
so
too.
Cody
So
backs off of that. He does not
What a
want to be
masterpiece.
trying to push that one too hard. He's got other
Wait, where am
things
I
that he
going?
needs to work harder for.
Is it all the way up here?
And so
what the fuck? I didn't
the
realize
second
there was that
piece,
much.
on his
up
agenda
here.
is Ian. That Franzel was pushing hard to keep Ian. Ian is valuable. Cody has also been working on his relationship with Ian. He's had some talks with Ian over the past few days, and he feels okay enough with Ian that he doesn't really want Ian to go quite yet, it seems, though I think he would be willing to let Ian go if he had to. And so he brings up Ian. He says, I know you talked about Ian before, but, and Memphis is like, yeah, I did, but I don't know. And Cody's like, yeah, it's just like when's the right time to take that shot? And Memphis was like, yeah, exactly, not sure. And Cody's like, I personally feel
I've got
like
this.
I feel like he kind of likes me, so I feel like we might not need to take the shot. Like when we hang out, he's like,
Nothing
he's
to
put his
it.
arms up like this, like I do.
Try to stay
but
behind
he's
me.
like, he's saying like
your back.
yo, what's cooking?
I forgot. I keep on forgetting that we can play as Era.
And she's like, I feel like
Here goes.
he's in with me. So maybe we don't need to take that shot, essentially. And Memphis seems very fine with that. Like Memphis didn't even name Ian before this conversation, and he gave no indication that Ian was a target. Cody said, so yeah, maybe that easy thing, like Nicole and David, maybe Ian is like a potential backdoor. And Memphis says essentially like, yes, sure.
Come on.
But I don't
I'm
think
with you.
that
Let's go.
I don't think that either of them actually want that from the tone of this conversation.
I feel like Cody tried to be easily in there a little bit, and then got to pushback and immediately did the same stuff he talked about, the whole like mimicry and all that. And I feel like in other conversations, he's doing what he was doing about Tyler last week. He's talking about Tyler, he's gonna throw all the comments. It kind of feels like he's subtly throwing that out there. I don't necessarily think like maybe this is the week that it has to happen necessarily, but it's one of those things where it's like, hey, if you're not one of the side pieces, maybe into the top 5 pick of the draft. Maybe you get rid of Ian for me. That would work out for me. That's how I'm taking it, but I do not think he's going to want to push his agenda to the depths of, hell to get Ian out on better situation, try to raise him hard. But I do think that he probably should. I think if it's him, he should want Ian out potentially off everyone on the board. But I think, and we'll talk about this, Taryn, I think he's very good.
So
I disagree.
I think that's a perfectly reasonable read on it as well. My read on it was that Cody brought up Ian to try and see if he could sway Memphis off
I'll
of
show you what I can do.
from the start.
That'll do.
I think
You'll
Cody's
see.
sort of priority list is
Tagging out.
definitely not him or anybody that
Was
is
never in doubt.
His main crew. Definitely not Davon or Bailey. And then not David. Then not Ian. And then whoever. So I feel like what he wanted was Nicole and David sounds perfect to me. We'll get out Nicole, and then if somebody comes off the block, then he would let Ian go up on the block, and he'd take out Ian over David, but he'd probably take out Nicole over Ian at this point. So that's the read that I got from Cody in this spot. Well, I think we're pretty close to each other here. So that's basically like what's happening there in that conversation. That seems to be like the most concrete planning stage here. Like I said, I got the sense from Memphis that Ian probably isn't even really that much of an option. In fact, I think the thing that Cody is worried about is that if Memphis did go with the Nicole David option, then he might actually throw up like a Bailey or Davon as the replacement instead of Ian, which is definitely possible. Or he might throw up Ian. I still have no idea what is on this guy's mind. I'm not sure, but I'm inclined to believe that he is leaning toward Nicole and David.
Yeah, I feel like that's the more.
Where am I right now?
That's what I predict to be the case as well. I think obviously with the safety suite, the fact that 2 people will be safe, we don't know who those 2 are. That could really change plans, because if that removes 2 people that would have been within his pool of 5, that leaves 3 people that he can put up, and then we can see some other stuff go down. But I do think that the Nicole David nominations should be what are the preliminary ones, no matter what happens today.
So in the meantime, while this is happening, Nicole is talking with Ian. Again, locking in this relationship, keeping him in the right state of mind for her game. It's I'm watching Nicole with Ian, and I'm like, Ian, don't do it again. This is what Dan did to you. So she is like, don't trust Nicole, Anthony. She is not trustworthy. He's like, what? No, it's Nicole. She's like, no, she's with Janelle. He's like, what? No, she's not with Janelle, is she?
Bring it.
Yes. Did you see her? She wanted that man desperately. She's obsessed with Janelle. She just wanted to be there close to her. She's definitely working. Oh, Ian, come on, it's obvious. And Ian's like, oh man, I didn't notice before. She's like, yeah, don't trust her. She's like,
come on,
I'm trying to anytime anybody mentions you, I say oh no, he's good.
That's bullshit.
You're staying off the block. I'm trying to make some friends. I'm trying to get you included on things. But I also don't want to make it seem like we're a pair, because we don't want to, it's too threatening. And so, Ian talks about he feels comfortable in the house. He says, Nicole, Cody, Danny, and Memphis are the people he feels most comfortable with in the house. And she says you should talk to Memphis because, we don't want him to not know anything. So he's okay, I'm gonna talk to Memphis.
I like that they talked a little bit about the safety suite, and she said, "Don't save anyone from the other side. I don't care. You don't have to save me." I think Nicole has done a fine job, and this is where I compliment a player that I'm not really a fan of. She really has done a fine job of reeling in and then effectively has a marketing shift to her allies. You know, it's like if a parachute was the price of admission for the alliances, unless you're Enzo, because obviously you never need one for some reason. She had Ian, she represented Ian, and I think she's done a good job of also still being able to control Ian to a degree, still being able to tell Ian things that Ian needs to hear, and have him do the things that she needs him to do. I think having him talk to Memphis, she knows he really needs him to do it. She doesn't say it in a way that is gonna set him into a panic necessarily. Subtle enough that it works, even though Franzel does very well have the tools needed to cause panic and cause paranoia.
I won't give up.
So in the meantime, during that, you have people like Nicole, Anthony trying to talk to Memphis or anything. You have a few other people cycle through, and he just tells all of them like not talking.
Call me fire.
So we then get Ian going to talk to Memphis. Ian comes in, and this was very interesting to me. So if you recall, just a minute or two ago, Ian said that Memphis is one of the 4 people he's most comfortable with in the house. You might go, why is that? Memphis is talking about targeting Ian. Well, something happened while the feeds were down earlier in the day. Ian comes in, he says, you know, we had a great conversation earlier today. I'm so glad we did. I've even
So on tier.
years.
Oh wait, well no.
And
Finish
Memphis
first.
was like, yes, we had a great conversation.
That's
Don't
from
worry
the
about
reactor
it.
getting lost in the
And
slums.
he basically is telling
Must be
him,
because of the
he's
explosion up top, huh?
He's either
They
like
must have
just
thought
like
they were
completely
protecting the reactor.
knowing this guy,
They
like
figured I was
I'm
trespassing
gonna
on their
not
turf or
possibility.
Maybe.
Just genuinely like Ian's
Almost
not really a
feel sorry
possibility
for
in
him.
Memphis. I
Getting all
don't know what
lost
this
and confused like
conversation
that.
was. I'm very curious
what am
to
I
know what it
saying?
was because
Man or machine?
I think that
Machine with bitches get what they
was
deserve.
definitely big.
Now, hold on.
Because they hadn't really talked
Anyway,
before this.
I think it's safe to say our work here is finished.
But I
If
really
you're ever
don't
in the
feel like
market for
Memphis
a
is
merc
interested in
again,
targeting
remember,
anything.
you can count on
I
Cloud.
don't see
sure.
either. I don't
And
know
sorry
what
about
it
putting
is,
this
because
on
I
you
also
all of a sudden.
was of the
I'm really glad you were willing to help out,
that's
though.
what's gonna happen.
Thanks again.
But
Actually,
it
while
doesn't
you're
look
here,
like that's
I
the case.
got
I
another
wonder
favor to
if,
ask.
and I
There's
really
this
do
old
think, I
guy who
wonder if
hangs out in
Memphis
front of the weapons
is
shop.
finding himself and
Might need
realizing
your
and
help.
thinking,
Would you
you know
mind
what,
talking to
I'm
him?
kind of in the middle of everything. I'm good with both sides.
So,
no
on
one's
tier.
really gonna come after me either
go ahead
which
and save.
way. So why should
Am I still in
like,
chapter?
Ian
I
has
am,
enough
right?
people looking
Yeah,
at him.
okay.
Maybe I don't need to be the one to do this. Let me take out someone that no one else would have taken out because easy weak, and then go to the back and let them continue to take each other out. I
Are we
wonder if
9
that's what
hours
his
in?
idea is. Again, this would be me
Huh.
lending hella credit and game
Okay.
theory and
There you are.
understanding to Memphis. I don't know if I'm ready
End
to
here.
do that yet.
Next episode continue on.
To
For
me,
now,
it
thank you for watching.
really did feel like Marietta in the